After a couple of weeks of left turns, it's time to throw some rights back into the mix as we are set for round number 5 of season number 2 tonight. It is the first trip to Mid-Ohio for the RIL Daredevil series as they get ready for 35 laps around the chicane layout here tonight. It's finally race day again here on turn 200 as we've gathered ourselves back up from the action last week in Richmond. My name is Tommy Cook. We've got the king, Mr. Matt Williamson. Are you ready for Mid-Ohio here tonight?
I mean, I guess I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. This is a pretty tricky little track here, and it's definitely gonna test the limits of some of our drivers for sure.
There you go. So testing limits here tonight. We'll get more on that in a second. But we're getting ready for another road course. It's going to be the second of the season. But after the first ever short track in series history, the points have been shooketh.
Shooketh indeed, my friend. After his third place finish at Richmond, Octavio Rondoletto still has control of the points lead ahead of Mid-Ohio tonight. But it was a heroic last corner pass that brings James Watson up to second in the standings, only 450 points off of being on top. The only other driver within a race of this lead is actually Rondoletto's teammate, Julian Martinez Pastor, who sits 880 points back after his first DNF of the season last week. Everyone on the graphic from 4th to 10th is one race out. Otherwise, more than 1,000 points from being at the lead. I guess technically Gavin Sanders was our biggest mover last week because he won in his very first start of the season, which is very impressive. He's now 7th in the standings. But Wes A. Shire moved up 11 spots to 11th, and Matthew Short, who was our in-race reporter last week, isn't on this graphic, but he moved up to 15 spots to P22 after his top 10 finish at Richmond.
The task at hand tonight is the Mid-Ohio chicane layout, which only differs from the full course by about 1/10 of a mile or so. But Mid-Ohio is such a tricky course. No matter what layout it is, it deserves an up-close look as we take a lap around the chicane layout.
Coming down the pit straight, right away there is a key element to take note of here. As you dump it off around turn 1, the pit exit is on the inside of the turn here. But moving to the left of the yellow line will earn the driver a slow-down penalty. Now, rather than headed straight to the keyhole, as it's known, you'll first have to navigate the chicane, which goes straight into the keyhole. That's a tricky 1-2 punch, but it then leads to the fastest part of the track here. Drivers can get upwards of 150 miles per hour by the end of the long straight and into the technical portion of the track in turns 6, 7, 8, and 9. Which are hilly and lead to blind spots ahead of the drivers. After exiting the S's, drivers make their way into Thunder Valley and hit another pretty tricky set of corners before a trip around the carousel brings us back to the pit straight. 15 turns around the chicane layout here tonight, and it is rife with danger around every single one of them.
So you and I had last week at Richmond chalked up as an impossible task in relation to keeping the cars out of trouble, but believe it or not, we had 8 drivers finish not only with 0 incident points, but also on the lead lap after 119 laps around the 3/4 mile track. So these 8 drivers here have an entry into the Jacksonville Speedway 0-0 Challenge after their effort last week. They each have a little number next to their names, and that number is how many entries that they have thus far after 4 rounds in the second season here. Always, we thank Jacksonville Speedway for supporting the RIL Daredevil series by providing the pot for the 0-0 Challenge. Jacksonville Speedway closes out their season this Saturday night with midgets, 410 and 305 sprint cars, and more. And you can catch the action live on Dirt Vision starting at around 6 o'clock Central Time. When we come back, we'll get a word in with today's Turn 200 driver to watch, Wes A. Shire. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back to Mid-Ohio in just a moment.
A blind knight that uses echolocation, viewing the dark, treacherous world through sound. Trapped in a dungeon deep, endangered by combatants, where hazards lurk around every corner. Make sound to have vision, or don't and be stealthy. Avoid impaling threats throughout the dungeon to escape. engage with other prisoners.
Rogue Knight, I've been here a while. Could you find the key and unlock my cell?
Free them to fight back with more allies.
Let's take this guy.
The dungeon labyrinth has many paths and even more traps. Struggle through the darkness to find your freedom.
Getting settled back in here on turn 200, and we are with our driver to watch here from Mid-Ohio. It is Wesley Shire. Welcome back to Booth 200. It's been too long.
Yes, it has. Been what, since like Watkins Glen Thunderdome, I think.
Maybe. I think we had you in at Phoenix, actually, as
Oh
our
yeah.
And that was a good contest for you. I'll tell you that much. And I think so far in season 2, you've had the cornered the market on highs and lows. But after a hard-fought fourth-place finish last week in Richmond, what's the confidence level heading into what is proving to be a chaotic task here at Mid-Ohio? Is that fair? Chaotic?
Yeah, chaotic certainly would be accurate. Possibly a little bit neutral with a whole box of them. But yeah, it should be fun. Quite a lot of drivers spinning here. You got a bunch of oval guys trying to do a nice, difficult road course. So we'll see how this goes.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think about with all of the certainly accidents and getting off track that we've seen here in practice, is this going to be more of a patient racer's a dream right here? Because I know I'm more of a patient racer myself, and if I was looking at this, I'd be chomping at the bit, going, well, I'm just going to relax and try not to make any mistakes, and I should find my way to the front. Is that kind of what the deal is here?
Yeah, definitely going to have to agree with that. Just minimize risk, push where you can, and avoid the green stuff.
There is a lot of green stuff. Did you mark in the pre-race survey that this was your favorite track on the schedule this season?
That sounds like it. I certainly love this place. Definitely in my top 5 favorite tracks outright. So I'd be surprised if there was something else I like more on the schedule.
Well, there you go. It's I hope you like it a lot, and I hope you still like it after the race as well. Podium finisher last season at Watkins Glen, hoping for a similar, if not better, outcome for you tonight. Best of luck to the Turn 200 driver to watch here tonight, Wesley Shire. Thanks as always for the time.
Yeah, thanks. See you later.
All righty. Well, we alluded to it a couple of different times there throughout the interview with Wes, who had to reboot his entire VR headset while he was sitting here in the booth with us. So glad that he could get that fired off in time. As I'm going to try and get him back to the right channel. And I think I did. Okay. So trying to do a little bit of Discord management at the same time, that is probably one of the things I'm worst at. But we alluded to it while we had Wes in the booth here, but everybody has crashed many multiples of times. This has the promise to be one of the biggest junkyards I think we will have seen here in the Daredevil series. Do you concur?
I mean, certainly for a road course. I mean, we've seen a couple of junkyards. Our very first inaugural race at Atlanta and Auto Club and Charlotte as well. So we've seen a few in our day, but I believe this is definitely going to be the most difficult road course we've seen here in the Daredevil series. It should be quite the test for our drivers here today.
You know it's going to be a rough night when Michael Deturck says he doesn't want to race here. He said that all the way back when we talked to him after Brands Hatch Indy. But we're going to find out who has got the right stuff for qualifying here tonight in Mid-Ohio. It is Dakota DeMade's least favorite track in his least favorite state. He says that Ohio is a scourge on the Union of the United States, and that society has progressed past the need for the state. So I think he's looking forward to a good qualifying run here as all the drivers are hitting the track. We have The fastest driver in practice should not be a surprise to anybody. Actually, it might be a little bit of a surprise because it's not Michael Deturck. But if it's not Michael Deturck, then Octavio Rondoletto is probably the driver everybody is looking at to bust off a fast time here. He had the fastest lap in practice by almost 0.3 of a second. He was the only driver into the 1 minute 13 second bracket. Gavin Sanders and Christopher Hill were the next two fastest drivers. Then Bruno Miranda in fourth, and Michael Deturck all the way down in fifth. So we'll have to see who is going to clock in some fast times here. Who are you keeping your eye on as they motor around Mid-Ohio here?
Yeah, well, we were kind of looking at some of the drivers that you just mentioned, Octavio Rondoletto, Christopher Hill, Michael Deturck, and, those are some of the folks that we think are going to be the fastest around here. Sanders definitely as well, who got his first win in his first race of the season last week. So he is certainly going to be someone to watch as Octavio Rondoletto dipped his tires into the grass there and now is sliding. So definitely not going to be the lap that he wants here. Is probably going to have another crack at it and might get another chance.
Waiting for anybody to post a qualifying time here, and nobody has as of yet. So I think everybody is still coming around, but a couple of drivers who are on their first laps are not going to be able to post a time if you so much as dip your tires off into the grass. It is unforgiving. Hardly any runoff here, paved or otherwise. You got some rumble strips on the outside at some of the turns, most notably down Thunder Valley. But outside of that, pretty unforgiving, brutal track. And one of the things that the drivers have the ability to adjust, it's not like the IR-18. You know, this car was made in 1978 for crying out loud. One of the things the drivers can adjust here is brake bias. And Michael Deturck was in the Discord earlier giving some tips on some numbers to play around with. Anywhere from the low 40s to the high 50s will get you through different parts of the track here. As Nicholas Johnson just went around in the chicane. Times are starting to come in now. As Gavin Sanders, lap of 1:14.391 is the fastest thus far by almost 0.4 of a second. Bruno Miranda, Nate Siefker, Michael Deturck, Octavio Rondoletto, your top five of those who have posted times thus far. And most drivers have put in a lap already. But we will see more time start to trickle in here as qualifying is set to end here in about a minute and a half.
And watching Nicholas Johnson and now Miranda as well. Miranda hasn't crashed, but we can see he is sliding around this track on almost every corner. So, I mean, these drivers are right on the edge at almost all times, which that is hard to keep up. I believe we have 35 laps here tonight. So 35 laps of being on the ragged edge at all times, that's just a tall task for sure.
I think the drivers tonight are just looking to make it 35 laps, and if a finish comes along with it, then that should be just fine. I mean, even the fast drivers we saw spin it out all the time. Maybe trying to push it, to be fair, maybe just trying to push it as hard as possible in practice, but maybe not. So we'll have to wait and see. 40 seconds left in qualifying here. A couple of drivers still running around on the track, but it will be Gavin Sanders right now provisionally on the pole, as Christopher Hill just put in the second quickest time. Not too far off of the pace set by Gavin Sanders. So Christopher Hill needing a good run here tonight. P2 qualifying effort as it stands right now. With Rondoletto, Deturck, and Miranda, your top five. And trying to let some silence play out here because I think we're going to need our voices here for the first few laps. It's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, certainly going to be wild. I talked about it a little bit with Wes here before the qualifying started, but I really think that being as patient as possible here may be your best bet. Of course, we've said that previously this season, and that ended up not being the case. So we shall see what tactic is going to work the best.
Oh, well, we are getting ready to rock and roll here tonight. Around Mid-Ohio, the chicane layout for 35 laps. Everybody is scared, but let's give you the starting lineup nonetheless. The driver who will take the pole here tonight It is his first career pole in the RIL Daredevil series, coming off of his first career win last week at Richmond. That is Canada's Gavin Sanders in car number 10, who will lead the field to green. On his outside, in car number 101 out of California, the Team Watson Racing driver Christopher Hill. On the outside of the front row, finished second in every road course race last season in competition. On the inside of row number 2, the Argentinian points leader of the RIL Daredevil series, that is Octavio Rondoletto, with his best qualifying effort on the season thus far. Deepest start in the field in a road course for this driver, the driver that has won them all in RIL Daredevil series competition. That is Rochester, New York's Michael Deturck, starting in P4. Rounding out your top 5 starters here tonight is the driver out of Brazil in car number 77. That is the Storm Bruno Miranda in P5. Starting to his outside out of Oskaloosa, Iowa in P6. That is the 2 of Nate Siefker. In starting spot number 7, he is back in action here tonight for the first time since Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, is Logan Spath in car number 69. And a debutant from last week who led quite a lot of laps after winning the pole and rallied to a 6th place finish, Rhett Nichols out of Fairmont, West Virginia, starting in P8. On row number 5 on the inside, back after missing Richmond last week, it's Nick Johnston in car number 23. Get the rest of the starting lineup here as they are rolling around in a quick start. The Daredevils are on the move in Mid-Ohio. We are 3 wide for the race lead into the first turn. Who is going to make the first mistake here? A couple of cars dipping tires off into the grass, but everybody is keeping it pointed in the right direction thus far into the keyhole.
Actually, not as crazy of a start as I thought we were going to have here. Everybody's pretty much minded their P's and Q's on the start as far as we're concerned, but once we start trying to push the limits here after we get spread out, I think that's when we're going to see maybe a few people start going around.
It's the first big braking zone. There is some contact further back in the field, but everybody is still keeping it pointed in the right direction. Now through the S's, a couple of wobblers across that big hill there. I thought about a dive there onto the inside of Rondoletto. I believe it's Deturck in P3, challenging for P2. How about Christopher Hill leading the way? Gavin Sanders on the opening lap has slid all the way back to spot number 4. Bruno Miranda right now in 5th, trying to hold off Nate Siefker as they come around to complete lap number 1. Christopher Hill leading the way.
And it looks like Dakota DeMade has crashed. He is in the very back of the pack here.
If you keep an eye on the front of the field, I will take a look at what happened to Dakota DeMade so we don't have to take a replay.
We're single file up here in the front at the moment. It's Hill,
I'm
Rondoletto.
going to say too much rear bias for him. He locked it up. Coming through Thunder Valley. And that is what happened to Dakota DeMade. So no harm, no foul. Get it back onto the track and try and pick up some spots here.
There's a good little battle here going on between Miranda and Siefker. This is going to be for 5th.
So heading into the carousel, it is Christopher Hill showing the way over Rondoletto and Deturck, with Sanders, Miranda, Siefker all in the mix as Caleb Bency has disconnected. Didn't so much as get a chance to call out the fact that he was starting his second career RIL Daredevil Series race here tonight. But as quickly as it starts, it ends for Caleb Bency here tonight. I'll go and take a look at what happened to the 3-time Shapers IndyCar Series champion.
And a few things to note here tonight that we did not get to before the green flag dropped. There are 35 laps here or 55 minutes, which we likely will not get to because there are no full course cautions here. So should have 35 full laps here. A 10x warning will be a drive-through penalty if people are getting off track here quite a bit. That is something to watch. A 20x will actually get you booted from the race and disqualified. So need to be careful about how much you're dipping your tires off the track if there are parts of the track to do that in.
I tell you what, through the S's, Rondoletto was inching his way forward on Christopher Hill, and he might go back on the attack here coming out of the carousel. Rondoletto, as these tires have come up to temperature, he has really started to look rock solid through some of the tough parts of the track here. Just a couple of car lengths behind Christopher Hill as they head down the pit straightaway here on lap number 4. Christopher Hill has led them all thus far after qualifying on the outside pole and taking the lead from Gavin Sanders. Sanders is back to 4th. Ahead of him is Deturck. And Rondoletto is right on Hill for the race lead. He'll take a peek to the inside here coming out of the keyhole. But that peek may cost him a little bit of momentum here down the long straightaway. Counting to the top 7 cars breaking away from the rest of the field. That is Hill, Rondoletto, Deturck, Sanders, Miranda, Siefker, and Nicholas Johnston. We do have Matthew Johnston in the field again here tonight for the first time in quite some time. So welcome back to him. He's running in P13 right now.
And we were taking a look at our weather on screen there. We noticed this. We have a huge battle here. This is the third.
Well, I tell you what,
second.
Rondoletto backed up to these guys. He had a little bobble through the S's and stacked everybody up behind him. So he's lost a ton of time to Christopher Hill. And what happened to Caleb Bency was the same part of the track as DeMade. He hit the rumble strip, overcorrected it a little bit, and an innocent little bop into the tire barriers there on the driver's right of that straightaway. But that was enough damage to constitute him being out of the race. So he decided to retire a little bit earlier than he wanted to.
Before Rondoletto had that little mishap there, I was going to mention the track temperature here at the moment. We were actually at about 105 degrees, I believe, when the race started, and we had gotten down to 102, 103. We actually saw temperatures up to around 108 in practice, so maybe a little cooler track temperatures is helping our drivers here try to push the limits of these cars, but we'll have to watch that throughout the race.
Michael Deturck running in 3rd. When we interviewed him at Brands Hatch Indy after his win there, he said Long Beach is his favorite track on the entire server and that Mid-Ohio is one of his least favorites. He said that one is for anybody else to win. But, I mean, it's Michael Deturck in a Lotus 79. Are we really discounting him here? He's running in P3.
Yes, I mean, especially on a road course, we know that's his thing. Of all the people to make the least amount of mistakes, I would have to say it would probably be him, which is kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the race. Minimizing your mistakes might be the key here. So for all of the people out here to have the least amount of mistakes, I would believe it would be him.
He's looked pretty solid behind Octavio Rondoletto, who looks like a yo-yo between 1st and 3rd here. He can pull right up to the rear wing of Christopher Hill and make one mistake and go right back to the front wing of Michael Deturck. So we'll have to wait and see if he can find a little bit of consistency here and start to reel in the race leader once again. He's been about 1.3 seconds behind for the last couple of laps.
We have some movement back here in the back. Matthew Johnston got off track and kind of bottled up Claiborne and DeMade there for a moment. So Johnston certainly not having the start of the race that he wanted. He had some speed in practice.
Yeah, let's get a full field rundown here because I forgot where they grid these cars. I did not have a time to do a full starting grid here. So it's Hill leading Rondoletto, Deturck, Sanders, and Miranda, your top 5. Then it's Nicholas Johnston in 6th. Rhett Nichols is back this week in 7th. Nate Siefker, 8th. Our in-race reporter, Wesley Shire, in 9th. Nicholas Isidro rounds out your top 10. It is Matthew Short, last week's reporter, in 11th, as Christopher Hill is not the race leader anymore. What has happened to the 101? Christopher Hill just went off in the carousel. He locked up the rear brakes, went off into the grass. He is all the way back to P6. That means Octavio Rondoletto is now the race leader.
I actually missed it. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can look at the replay here real quick and then get right back to the action. This is your leader at the time, Christopher Hill, And right you are. I think he just got in there maybe a little too hot, slid the back tires, and just tried to hold on to it, which he did. Does end up in the grass a little bit, but doesn't have any damage to the car necessarily. So he is able to continue, but loses some spots.
Now, coming over some of those rumble strips, if you catch them at a weird angle, you can do front wing damage. I don't think that happened necessarily to Christopher Hill. But, wow, what a tough break for Christopher Hill from the lead all the way back to 6th now. He has grinded out some big runs through the field before to come away with a podium finish. And so that is in order tonight if Christopher Hill wants to have some recovery. Christopher Kresge has just left the server. And I will go back and look for what happened to our league proprietor.
And our new race leader now is Octavio Rondoletto, and we had a little comment in our YouTube chat about the livery for Gavin Sanders, the good old classic race first handwritten livery. We love to see it back here in the Daredevil series, sporting the number 10 machine. Gavin Sanders is, who was our race winner last week and is having a good showing here as well. So looking to make his way up to the front of the championship standings after only running 2 races. This is a second race with us here this season, so that would be a quite impressive feat.
You could put all the money and time and effort you want into spec maps and color charts and what have you, but nothing is ever going to beat that race first scheme. I smile every time I see it on the track, no matter if it's Matt Houston or Gary Gonzo, if he ever drives that livery. I have no idea. Or Gavin Sanders sported it here tonight. But what a great car. And what a great driver. You mentioned it, Gavin Sanders. First last week, running in second right now. And a good recovery for him thus far after being on the pole in this race, slipping all the way back to 4th, now finding his way back up to P2.
And Miranda was off track there as well, so one of the Hunkos Esports drivers having a little slip up. I think might have only lost 1 position or maybe 2. So nothing extremely egregious, just lost it a little bit into the grass and is now moving once again.
Well, I'll tell you what, it started the exact same way in the exact same spot as Christopher Hill, but he dumped it off to the inside of the carousel and kind of cut through the grass there and had to stop. So once he got it back rolling again, he came back out in 8th. As Octavio Rondoletto trying to muscle the car through the S's and now going down around, making his way to Thunder Valley as the race leader. Now, we've seen him lead quite a bit here this season. He led 1 lap in the green flag pit cycle at Auto Club and led 1 more at the end of the race, the very last lap, to win by 1/1000th of a second in his first career race. He led 74 of 75 laps at Charlotte and brought it home with a 9th place finish. And he also led 1 lap at Brands Hatch Indy under the green flag pit cycle as well. But now he is out front as the leader at a road course outright for the very first time in his career. And leading Gavin Sanders by 1.6 seconds. It is Michael Deturck a couple of seconds behind them. Nicholas Johnson and Christopher Hill, your top 5. Nate Siefker, Rhett Nichols, Bruno Miranda, Wesley Shire, Matthew Short, the top 10. Then it is Nicholas Isidro in 11th, James Watson 12th, Hugo Galaz, Dakota DeMade, and Matthew Johnston, your top 15. Cody Claiborne, Logan Spath, 16th and 17th. Peter Donchak is the last car running in 18th, as we've had retirements from Christopher Kresge and Caleb Bensey thus far. And Peter Donchak has now just disconnected as I was talking. So P17 is going to be the worst a driver can do from here on out.
There's been a little battle brewing here between Wes A. Shire and Matthew Short. Short has reeled him in a couple of times, gotten to the rear wing, and then has fallen off. So just maybe not as quick in some spots of the track as Wes A. Shire, but where he finds his speed, he is much quicker. So we'll see if he's able to put a move on him here in the coming laps.
Oh, 1 car is off in the carousel. It is James Watson. I don't think he made contact with anything. He is back up to speed, but he loses several spots here. And we mentioned it in the pre-race, James Watson, after a couple of great weeks, only 450 points behind Octavio Rondoletto. And this may be a race where he kind of needed to stop the bleeding with a top 5 finish, knowing that Rondoletto was going to probably put it on the podium, if not win the thing like he's doing right now. So it's not off to a good start thus far for the Team Watson Racing proprietor, James Watson, in 14th.
Hey, Tommy, what do you say before we get to some green flag pit stops here? Why don't we give a little looky-loo at our title sponsor of the Daredevil series?
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned it, because just because the action is stopped in Indy for the year doesn't mean that you should visit Speedway, Indiana. If you happen to find yourself around IMS this offseason, carve out a little time to visit the title sponsor of the RIL Daredevil series, Daredevil Brewing Company. Their brewery and tap room is open Monday to Friday, located in Speedway, Indiana, right across the street from AJ Foyt Racing, just south of IMS. If you're not in the mood for some brew as much as you are for some good food, check out the restaurant Daredevil Hall, open Tuesday to Sunday on the northeast end of Indianapolis. In addition to their tap room and restaurant, you can find their products all across Indiana in restaurants and grocery stores, including the #1 best-selling Indiana-made IPA, Liftoff. Even if you won't be in Speedway anytime soon, you can still place an order online at daredevilbeer.com. If nothing else, be sure to get on social media and thank Daredevil Brewing Company for supporting the Revolution Indy League. And congratulations to them as well, because their logo just was part of a class of winners in a craft brewery logo contest. So congratulations to them on that. It is certainly a really cool logo. And it's definitely my favorite out of that group of logos as well. So, not that I'm biased or anything.
And apologies to all of the viewers out there. We were mentioning that battle between Wesley Shire and Matthew Short. And while we had our Daredevil Brewing logo up there, Short actually got by Wesley Shire. So one of the few passes that may happen here without an incident just happened while we had our logo up there. So apologies, but it was a good one, I'll tell you.
Well, it was really good. You just
Not
have
that
to
it makes
trust
it any
us,
better.
bro. Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. Gavin Sanders has cut the gap down to a second. He is appearing closer and closer in the side mirrors of Rondoletto here as they work their way through turn 6, 7, 8, and 9, a.k.a. the S's. This has a flow a lot like Sonoma. I think it has a little more speed, a few less curves, but the turns that they do have here are difficult to say the least. I think maybe in part because of the amount of speed you're carrying down some of these straightaways here.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 or 3 straights that are pretty long, but there's quite a few sweeping corners where you just have to carry your speed through them. Otherwise, you're going to be extremely slow. So when you have fast corners like that where you have to carry the speed, it just puts you on your toes a little bit. You have to be on it at all times. As Sanders has reeled in Rondoletto, he's within 0.4 of a second now.
Sanders and Rondoletto about 3 car lengths apart, as are Deturck and Johnston for P3. We'll keep an eye on both of those battles here as they all head into the hard braking zone and now through the S's for the race leaders. Johnston is looking to the inside of Deturck on turn number 6. That is a tight place to be working side by side. They're still going out. Johnston's around. There goes Nicholas Johnston. Gets it back, looped forward, and back on to the loud pedal. But a hard battle there, side by side for P3, goes the way of Michael Deturck. Not sure if they made any contact.
It definitely looked like they made contact. I want to look at a replay here, and Sanders is still a few tenths of a second back, so I'm going to go ahead and try to see if we can get one. Please let me know if there's any action up front.
I will keep an eye on that. Go for it.
You can see Johnston is on the outside of Deturck here. He's going to try to make a move, and there was a little bit of netcode involved there as well.
Of course.
So of course, why wouldn't there be? And I don't really think either of them did much wrong. Johnson was just trying to get as close to Deturck as possible around that turn, and netcode just kind of pushed his rear end around and spun him out.
I mean, credit to both of them. They were battling hard side by side, but man, that's a tough place to stick it in there to try and go for a pass. But they both did a good job, especially if it was netcode there. That just kind of makes it sting a little bit more. But Johnson, a great recovery from the spin to only really lose one spot. He only lost fourth spot to Christopher Hill, and running back now in P5, holding off Nate Siefker. But it's seesawed a bit back and forth between Rondoletto and Sanders. It's been about 1 to 3 car lengths between them. All that last time by in lap number 15. We have lap number 16 up on the board now. We've seen laps led thus far from Christopher Hill as well as Octavio Rondoletto.
Shout out to Race First hanging out in the chat with us here at Mid-Ohio, saying that Kresge should rejoin the session and type !yellow to stack that field up.
Oh, an agent of chaos, as always. That would be hilarious. I don't think some of the drivers would be very happy about it, but I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, actually, on our initial start of the race, it was not as messy as I thought it was going to be. Everybody did a very good job of giving each other room. So, later in the race, I'm sure that might be a little bit of a different story. But to at least start this thing, everybody was minding their own.
Yeah, there was one little bump on the inside of turn number 6. And that was it for the first lap. And all the chaos has happened since then. It really has not been as much. Because, I mean, it looks like... I don't even know what it looks like. I can't think of anything to compare it to. It looked like a tornado was going around the track with the drivers is really what it looked like. Because they were just... Nobody was making laps.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
In practice, yeah.
As Nichols got into the dirt a little bit there, he's trying to run down Siefker, who I think Siefker actually passed Nichols here just about a lap ago. As Siefker almost turned it around. He's still trying to hang on to it.
Boy, he is absolutely...
Whoa,
there he goes! Oh, into the tires. He's probably done. Oh, my gosh. I mean, that was a long recovery attempt there for Nate Siefker. They're trying to get the power down, save the position, and it was not to be, as Sanders is tucked right back up on Octavio Rondoletto here for the race lead. One car coming into pit is Logan Spath. He's running in P17, so he'll be the first car to hit pit road. Not sure if it's a scheduled stop. It's a little bit early, but not out of the question, I don't think.
Yeah,
Spath he may have some damage as well.
Yeah, Spath has had a few incidents. I've been watching our little incident report down here. It says that he's been off track a couple of times, so maybe trying to just short pit and maybe fix a little damage here. But certainly we're getting to the point where our drivers are going to think about coming in for pit stops, I would have to imagine, especially some of our drivers a little bit towards the middle of the pack, maybe to just try a different strategy and see if they can make anything happen here.
Sanders thought about having to go there to driver's right into turn number 6, had to check up hard because Rondoletto didn't even so much as open the door for it. But Sanders is there. To talk about the discipline for both of these drivers to run so close for as many laps as they had, and a lot of patience and a lot of give and take going on between these
we
two.
have one around right there next to them.
I did not see that. I
think that might have been Claiborne.
I was obscured by a tree right when you said that. Put the damn tree somewhere else. I don't want to see him.
Looked like Claiborne went around pretty much right in front of our leaders as they were coming up on him quick, and he not disconnected, but jumped to the pits quite quickly.
And it's been a couple races since we've seen Cody Claiborne as well, so this is a tough welcome back for driver number 31 as well. As Rondoletto and Sanders, first and second, have left Michael Deturck in the dust. He's running P3, 7.5 seconds behind this battle for the lead. He's got Christopher Hill closing in on him as well. As you mentioned it, we should be looking at pit stops here in probably the next 2 to 5, 6 laps, I'd say. We'll have to see how these drivers decide to split it up here.
Well, as close as these two are running together, Rondoletto and Sanders, Michael Deturck might be in the catbird seat. So, this is quite the battle brewing between these two. But you did mention that there has been a lot of patience shown as well. So definitely a great job by our two front runners at the moment.
And we're going to have to see what James Watson is going to do here. He's about to go a lap down, as he may move to one way or another here down the straightaway, as Rondoletto is going to look to the inside of Watson, and they get around him without much issue. Watson running in the 14th position as Sanders had a look there to driver's left into the chicane. That would have been tough to pull that one off. And there is more lap traffic ahead for the race leaders here. It'll be Hugo Galaz in P12. I believe Dakota DeMade. And actually, he is something I think just happened to Hugo Galaz because he was ahead of Dakota DeMade coming by the line last time. Oh, he was on the pits. That's what happened. So Hugo Galaz has fresh rubber.
I was just going to say, we mentioned that some of those guys towards the middle of the field might start coming in to play a little bit of a different strategy. Galaz was one of them. Miranda was just in the pits as well, just re-entered the racing surface.
Cody Claiborne has disconnected here as Sanders is trying to find his way around Rondoletto before they come down to pit.
And I apologize to people that came here to maybe watch some other drivers, but this battle here at the front spot is just too hot to take my eyes off of. It is certainly heating up between Sanders and Rondoletto.
There goes Sanders to the inside. He's going to take the spot through turn number 1. Does Rondoletto have an answer here into the chicane? He does not as of yet. Here they come to the keyhole. Down the long straightaway, Sanders starts to pull away now from Octavio Rondoletto. So new leader. He got the pole but never led a lap. Gavin Sanders has scratched and clawed his way back up to the front. But Rondoletto is not going away just yet.
And some more in the pits now. It looks like Nichols and Short have gone to get a little fuel and get some new tires. So the rest of the field, I would imagine, is going to be coming fairly soon.
At the line, it'll be lap 22 for our leaders. Through Thunder Valley, now headed towards the carousel. This is where pit entry is. We'll have to see if they decide to go straight. There goes Rondoletto trying to undercut the race leader. So it's Rondoletto in to get service here.
Christopher Hill also coming in.
No black flag for Rondoletto, which is always nice. He stops to get his service. Car goes up on all fours. Jack will drop here, and Rondoletto should have a clean getaway back out onto the track. Pit exit speed was good. He keeps it below the yellow line and across the blue, and oh boy, doesn't cut much room there to Logan Spath. But regardless, Rondoletto is off and away. Have to see how he can do here on cold tires, as now we just await for the race leader to head down pit road. Gavin Sanders is coming through the S's, now making his way around to Thunder Valley. So a couple of more turns to decide if Sanders is going to make his trip this time or if he's going to wait a couple of more.
I would imagine it would probably be this time.
It is this time.
Come in.
So Sanders, pit entry. Here we go. The race is on. As somebody's driving backwards down pit road, I think that was Matthew Johnston. Hate sliding through your box. But at least he did it in the boxes where the cars can't collide with anybody else. So Sanders goes in. Jack goes up. No black flags for anybody really on this pit cycle. Sanders is away. Where is Rondoletto going to come out? Where is Sanders going to come out?
We're watching Rondoletto now, and he is a good
he is
distance
way
behind Sanders. Yes.
Wow.
About 2.5 seconds, it looks like. Now Sanders is going to have to be careful on these tires for the first lap, so that gap might shrink here pretty quickly.
And it already has. I'd say he's cut at least 2 or 3 car lengths into it from the time that Sanders worked his way into the keyhole to the time he got out. It's a really slow corner for Gavin Sanders, but that is to be expected. Rondoletto has got a lot more temperature in these tires than Gavin Sanders does at this point. But the team race versus car defeats the undercut for the time being.
And while that was
back
happening,
out front.
yeah, while that was happening, Michael Deturck took over the lead of the race and still has not come into pit yet. I thought he was going to elect to go that time. He does not. He was being run down a little bit by Nicholas Johnston at that point, and Johnston decides to come into pit. Deturck is going to stay out for another lap.
Now, while Sanders and Rondoletto were battling, Deturck did cut into the lead just a little bit, but it was still around 6.5 seconds that he had to make up here. So trying for a long overcut here, maybe to have as fresh of tires as possible at the end of this race. We will have to wait and see where Michael Deturck is going to shake out here. As just about everybody else has come down to pit at this point. Nicholas Johnston in P2 is yet to make his service trip as well. But Sanders right now with almost exactly a 1 second advantage over Rondoletto here as they pace around into 3rd and 4th. Wow, Rondoletto took a big chunk out of the gap there on the braking zone into turn number 6.
And Deturck is now coming into the pits.
All right.
So we'll see how much time was gained or lost on his part. We're going to go back to what will be our leaders.
Black flag for Matthew Johnson. And he is already running down in P14. So the tough day, gets even tougher for Matthew Johnson. As Sanders and Rondoletto both through on Deturck, who is just now making his way out of the pits. So we'll have to wait and see next time he rolls around, unless you've got it in your live timing how far behind Deturck is from the race leaders now, Sanders and Rondoletto.
Yeah, I sure do. He lost a little bit of time there, about 2 seconds from when they came in the pit. He's about a little over 8.5 seconds back now. So
yeah, he lost at least 2 seconds, if not 2.5, on the pit cycle. But you can't blame him for trying something different here. Try and see if the overcut is going to work. You never know unless you do it.
Definitely, and you mentioned that Johnston had a black flag, but actually Christopher Hill has gotten in front of Deturck on the pit cycle as well. So Deturck is, at the moment, back in 5th, but with the black flag from Johnston, should be in 4th.
That was Matthew Johnson, not Nicholas Johnson, so I apologize
excuse me.
if I got that one confused.
Okay, so he's actually is going to be in 5th. So Johnston and Hill have both leapfrogged Michael Deturck in the pit cycle.
It's a problem you run into when you have people with the same names. Everybody should have different names.
How dare they have the same last name?
We love all of our...
Don't you know we got a job to do up here? Come on.
Yeah. Well, the top 2 are making it easy for us because we don't have any more Gavins or Sanders or Octavios, and certainly no more Rondolettos. I can tell you that much. And we wouldn't want any more because these 2 are good enough.
They have certainly given us a show, and I don't think the fireworks are over here yet, probably.
So it's 10 laps to go. Make it about 9.5 now. As Sanders, think about what's on the line here for Sanders, potentially. Started his first race in almost a full season last week at Richmond. Won the race. And is in position now to win again, to beat the points leader. I mean, he could instantly vault himself into the points battle after just 2 starts. Not even half the season.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's absolutely insane, but with those 2 wins, he's going to gain 2,000 points in 2 straight weeks. It's not going to get him directly to the top, as Rondoletto is going to get 800 points if he finishes 2nd here. So Rondoletto is definitely going to keep that points lead. but it vaults him up into a podium spot, seemingly out of nowhere, likely.
He will outgain Rondoletto if things continue the way they are by 500 points across the last 2 races. So, yeah, certainly work to be done. He may not even be within a race in the points after this week. If, once again, the biggest caveat in that is if they finish the way they are. Rondoletto certainly is capable of overtaking Sanders here. And I think this track is capable of opening up and swallowing them and spitting them out anyway. So it's still plenty of time to go for something to happen here. But the way things are looking now, I don't think Gavin Sanders is going to complain whatsoever.
And Tommy, if you want to keep an eye on the lead just to let me know if it's tightening up at all, we're going to try to watch a couple of other battles going on throughout the field here. We're going to be watching the battle for 12th. This is James Watson, who is your second place in the points at the moment, all the way back in 12th, being chased down by Nicholas Isidro. And actually, your leaders are going to be coming up on these two here pretty quickly, as Isidro tried to look to the outside of Watson there.
I was going to say they might get him within the next lap or lap and a half or so. I can see all 4 of them at once on my blimp cam right here. So Nicholas Johnson in P3, Christopher Hill in spot number 4. And where did Michael Deturck go? Michael Deturck is in the pits. Michael Deturck is disconnected. What happened?
I don't see where it says that he crashed. I do have an off track here.
So he was coming through turn 1, got on the rumble strips, and the car just went out from under him. And he clobbered the tire barrier there. So that is race over for Michael Deturck. He was running in P5.
We'll go ahead and take a look at it, but I'm going to wait for our leaders to get
through,
past, get through a couple of lap traffic cars who are also racing for a position, because that should be quite something.
Yeah. 2 battles here simultaneously, and we've said this many times, and I'll reiterate it here. Lap cars have the right to command their position on the track. I think the polite thing to do is to move out of the way, but I certainly don't think they are required to. But a very nice move there to get out of the way as Isidro lets the 2 drivers in first and second roll through him. And now James Watson is next on the list here for Gavin Sanders.
Yeah, well, the people.
Rondoletto has a cone on his front wing. Do you see that?
I don't. Let me see if I can take a view here. And
maybe that's just me bugging out here.
I do not see anything out of the ordinary.
DeMade is stopped on the chute there between the S's and Thunder Valley. He has come to a complete stop and has let everybody roll through him. And the man who hates Ohio is probably about Ohio'd out at this point.
Yeah, I don't see anything out of the ordinary on Rondoletto there, so I'm not sure. I'm going to guess the way he's driving, it might just be a little bit of a glitch in your system.
Yeah, it's not out of the ordinary for my system to be completely messed up. So sorry for the panic there, but Rondoletto still hanging tight in second. I mean, they haven't been separated. It's kind of ho-hum at this point, but they haven't been separated by more than 2 car lengths in the last, 10 laps, I don't think. Ever since they got out of the pits and got these tires up to temperature.
Yeah, and before that, they were attached for at least another 10 laps. So
yeah,
it's been quite the battle here between these two.
So we'll be coming at the line to 5 laps to go. If you want to take that replay to show what happened with Deturck, and we also lost Rhett Nichols in that space of time as well.
Certainly, we're going to see if we can take a look at Mr. Michael Deturck in the 47 car here. Was one of our favorites coming into this evening. Yeah, got into the grass. Not sure if he got loose before that or not. That was... I don't know if you actually saw that. Before he went over the rumble strips, he was actually in the grass at one point.
I mean, it really doesn't take that much. I mean, even just touching... If Michael Deturck touches grass, he is going around for sure. That's
yeah, so there were a couple of different incidents. I'm not sure if this is the same or not. Yeah, it's the same one I just... Oh, I see that he went into the grass again, and Oh yeah, definitely heavy damage into the tire barrier there.
So nothing new to report other than it's 5 laps to go, and our leaders still right there next to one another. It's 0.4 of a second on the timing sheet, but it's just a couple of car lengths here.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as they're weaving in and out of these turns, it's it's a little bit like a rubber band. They kind of ebb and flow with each other. So I'm interested to see what kind of a move Rondoletto makes. If he gets a little bit desperate here at the end, or he has a pretty sizable points lead. I know. That can definitely change. We've seen it change very quickly in this series, as we did already this season with some other drivers and in Season 1 for sure. So maybe he's thinking maybe it's just a good idea to take it a little bit easy, but he's certainly not doing it at the moment.
Rondoletto and Sanders both have the opportunity to join elite company as multi-time winners in the RIL Daredevil series. Of course, Michael Deturck has won 5 times. The winningest driver, Dakota DeMade, James Watson, have each won 2 races. And that is it. Those are your only multi-time winners. We have a pretty good shot to change that here tonight. Nicholas Johnson is running P3, but he is 5 seconds behind, which is, I mean, that's not the furthest away he could be, that's for sure. And, well, with Michael Deturck was in P3, and he was 7, 8, almost 9 seconds behind at one point. So Johnson is putting in some good laps here to try and get back up to the front. It'll be 3 to go at the line. There is a little bit of lap traffic ahead for the guys. In the next couple of laps, they will probably see Hugo Galaz and possibly Matthew Johnston and Wes A. Shire if they really pipe in some good laps here. But 3 to go now. Gavin Sanders, Octavio Rondoletto.
And for an update for the folks, we were watching that battle between Watson and Isidro there for a little bit. It looks like Isidro has fallen back. He's about 1.5 seconds off of Watson. And actually, those two, after a couple of people have had some incidents, that battle is up to 9th now, actually. Watson is now listed in 9th place. So those two have actually moved up a couple spots.
So Watson's doing what he needs to do to try and at least salvage a decent points day out of what has been an all-over-the-place kind of race for James Watson here. I mean, I think it's easier to point out when Sanders and Rondoletto aren't separated by less than 2 car lengths.
Oh,
wow, yeah, Rondoletto
lost it.
They call it Thunder Valley for a reason there. He was really cracking those rear tires, trying to get anything out of this car that he can. I think it's must be desperation time. Either that or the tires are going away for Rondoletto. Hugo Galaz moves aside for the race leaders as across the line, 2 laps to go. Rondoletto seeming to be fading just a bit, but it's still all to play for the top 2. And the keyhole is hard enough on its own, but the fact that the chicane is there just makes it that much harder to hit your entry and have a fluid corner. And these two have been pretty rock solid through the keyhole all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. I mean, you would generally carry more speed into the keyhole, but with the chicane, it just throws a little wrench in there. So that makes it pretty tricky.
Rondoletto is so good through the S's. It's just right here when he gets to Thunder Valley, he starts to lose just a little bit of ground. They're going to be working their way through the carousel. Sanders starting to look a little weeble-wobbly as well. These tires are going away. It's 1 lap to go around Mid-Ohio. At the line that time, it was a little over 0.5 second, but Rondoletto closes in just inch by inch as they work their way into the chicane. Now out through to the keyhole. Rondoletto closes the gap once again. A great corner exit for both drivers there. Sanders is going to have the advantage down the long straightaway, though. But they are headed towards Rondoletto's playground here through the S's.
Yeah, Rondoletto really pushed it hard into the chicane there. I think he went in there just a little bit too hot, struggled with the exit out of the keyhole there.
Couple of more S-turns to contend with here before they hang right into Thunder Valley. Does Rondoletto have anything left in these tires? Anything left in himself here? After what has been a long race up on the wheel here around Mid-Ohio. Coming to the carousel. No challenge from Rondoletto. 2 weeks in a row, Gavin Sanders is a winner with the RIL Daredevil Series back-to-back. Rondoletto, a great run in second. As the rest of the field comes across the line, we finish with 7 cars on the lead lap here after 35 laps. And what proved to be maybe not as a crazy race as we thought, but man, some fantastic racing here around Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, that battle between Sanders and Rondoletto all night long was a great battle to watch. I mean, we saw there, we were in the cockpit view of Rondoletto going into the chicane and through the keyhole there, and you could tell that he was really pushing it hard into the chicane to try to make up just a little bit of time so he might have a chance through the S's, but just, I think he struggled through the middle and then getting a good run out of the keyhole after he pushed it in there real hard, and he just didn't really have a chance to get back to him.
So as Sanders makes his way back around to the front straightaway here, the Newmarket, Ontario, Canada superstar in the RIL Schaefer's IndyCar Series. Started 2 races last season, DNF'd them both, one of them from the lead. Has come back with a vengeance here in season number 2. Let's give you the rest of the finishing order here as Octavio Rondoletto, another second place finish for him here tonight. Another podium, rather, for Rondoletto. Nicholas Johnston is back on the podium here tonight after missing Richmond last week. He will finish in P3. It is Christopher Hill with a good recovery after leading early to P4. And Bruno Miranda with his best career RIL Daredevil Series finish in spot number 5. Matthew Short, a good run for him tonight, a quiet run at that. It's P6 for him tonight. And our Turn 200 driver to watch is the last car on the lead lap here tonight in P7. That is West A. Shire. We've got Hugo Galaz in spot number 8. James Watson in 9th. Nicholas Isidro rounds out your top 10. The I Hate Ohio team driver, Dakota DeMade, finishes in P11. And Matthew Johnston, the last car running, actually, but also the last car 1 lap down in spot number 12. So a decent comeback run for Matthew Johnston here tonight, as it's DNFs from here on out. And I've got the story from Michael Deturck. We'll get to it here after our post-race interviews. But it is Michael Deturck who DNFs in 13 tonight. Rhett Nichols behind him in 14th, and is Logan Spath. Nate Siefker 15th and 16th. Cody Claiborne 17th. Peter Donchak in 18th. Christopher Kresge in spot number 19. And Caleb Bensey, an early retiree, on lap number 2. To finish in spot number 20 as they start to trickle in to the waiting for interview here. Hoping to get a word with Nick Johnson, who finished in 3rd. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds here, and then we're going to pull in Octavio Rondoletto if Nick Johnson doesn't appear in the waiting for interview. And I did this last week, and it seemed to work as soon as I gave up on it.
Sure did. You were counting down from 5, and as soon as you hit 1, our drivers showed up. So might not get Nicholas Johnston here tonight, though. It looks like he still has not shown up in the waiting for interview room.
I can give a couple of his shout-outs for you. Thanks to his lovely girlfriend for watching here tonight, and a great run. Oh, there we go. He just appeared. So we're going to pull him in and expedite the process here. Nick Johnston, a 3rd place run. welcome back after missing Richmond last week. It's what a crazy race for you, but P3 to finish it out here tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun race. I wish I would have got a little bit more practice, maybe qualified a little better. I think I had pace to run with Gavin and Octavio. Would have been probably fun to run with those guys, but I mean, this car was a blast, and running around this track is one of my favorite tracks. So, had a good time tonight.
You were certainly piping in a lot of good laps there towards the end of the run. Do you feel like you had more pace in any particular spot in the run, or just kind of overall, just all pace, I guess? I don't know.
It kind of seemed like once the fuel got to a certain level, the car and I gelled together really well, and I feel like I could throw the car around and kind of put it exactly where I want it while still carrying a lot of speed. And I think that's where some of my fastest laps came in. Earlier on in the runs, it was a little bit more wishy-washy. I had to be careful of the rear end. There was a couple guys who were bit by the rear end jumping out and then overheat the tires really quick, and then they're kind of just holding on for about half a lap. So you really had to watch out for that. Definitely when the fuel drops off, you can drive like your hair's on fire.
Matt, you got anything?
Yeah, congratulations, first of all. Could you take us through the incident that happened with Deturck there? I think that was before we got to our green flag pit stops.
Yeah, I actually forgot to look at the replay. It could have been my fault. I'm not sure. All I know is I've been running Deturck down for a couple laps there, and I noticed his lines through there. He would late apex and then take a really wide line into the left-hander over the hill so he can get a good run. Well, in my mind, that's like, okay, you're leaving the door wide open. So when I got up close enough to him, I just kind of blew the right-hander with no intention of getting back over to the right so I can get to the inside. And I was able to get to the inside of him, and I was hoping to maybe hold the outside there, and we go side by side through the S's and kind of see who came out at the end. And it looks like he did rather than I. But these cars are really wide. I don't race them all the time, so I could have just pinched them too much and wrecked myself. I don't know.
We will say there was a little bit of net code there, but nevertheless, that was impressive that you guys were holding it side by side through the S's. That looked pretty tight quarters. So congrats again on the third place finish. Who do you want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Thanks. Yeah, as far as that racing goes, I think if I want to go side by side with anyone in this car, it'd be Deturck. He's a really keen driver and likes running these things. Anyways, thanks to you guys, Matt and Tommy, for doing the broadcasts, giving people something to watch. Really appreciate it. Revolution Indy League for putting on the event. My wonderful, beautiful girlfriend Danielle for watching. I got third again, so I get interviewed first, so you can go to bed. So that's fantastic. And let's see, who else? Oh, the TWR racing team. I know in this series, at least, we all just kind of hang out down in the radio chat and mingle with everyone else. But still a good group of guys. Fun run with them. Had a good race with Chris tonight, so that was a lot of fun. And good race for Matt coming from the back to 6, so that was a good night. And I think that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Great run again, and hope to see you again next week.
Yeah, we'll see you at Pocono. Yay.
Not sure about that. Yay. But we'll have to see. Let's go ahead and pull up our second place finisher. And as hard fought of a runner-up finish as I've ever seen. Second place finish for Octavio Rondoletto here tonight. Congratulations on a second place finish.
Hello, guys. Thank you.
How were the tires towards the end of the race there?
The tires were a little bit hot in the end, but we did a great strategy, maintaining the speed so regularly and trying to be consistent. That was the key.
Where do you think you could have picked up a little more time on Gavin? It looked like you were really good through the S's.
I was turning so slow in some corners, especially in the last ones or in the turn 1, because I didn't want to lose the control. We need points, and that's more important for us than a result, right?
Certainly a good point state for you here tonight. Who do you want to thank from the podium here tonight?
At first, I want to congratulate Gavin and my teammate Bruno, and thank you for all the team, my family, and our spotter Gregorio. He were watching the race in the broadcast.
Well, we always appreciate Gregorio in the chat. So hi to him, hello to your family, and congratulations again on a solid performance here tonight.
Thank you, Tommy. See you.
Alrighty. Oh, my Discord just messed up and froze. There we go. Alrighty. So I love technical difficulties. Let's bring him up once again. It is 2 in a row for Gavin Sanders. And I mean, from an outside perspective, I think you worked a little bit harder for this one.
Yeah, a little bit more difficult to pass for this one, and it made it a little bit more interesting.
I think I just lost everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Gavin, are you still there? Uh-oh.
We might have had a little bit of a disconnect from
Oh,
race.
oh,
whatever.
I'm
there we
back.
Are we back? Okay.
Yep. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, the race was a lot of fun. I mean, not a whole lot of tire management, but I mean, up front it was tight. I mean, every lap within hundreds of each other, and kept it entertaining the whole time. And I mean, you can't ask for anything more, and I'm just glad to get 2 in a row here.
So you were fastest in practice. You got the pole. What happened at the start of the race for you to slide all the way back to 4th?
I think I just kind of missed the start a bit. I used I typically use the blip function and just lift off a bit to get up a gear, and for that I used the clutch, and maybe I was just a bit too slow or something happened, but yeah, I ended up losing a bit of ground and putting myself in a hole, but managed to climb on out somehow.
Matt, what do you got for Gavin here?
I'm curious how lap traffic was on a course like this. I know we saw a few guys kind of graciously get out of the way, but it looked like getting around lap traffic was pretty tricky here. How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, most people were pretty responsible with it. I think everybody in here has a good idea of what it can do, and if you even hold on for an extra corner or two for your own lap, and for your race's sake, you can seriously impact everything else. So it's definitely intimidating coming up to lap traffic as one of the front runners, and thankfully everybody was very cordial tonight. But this track is pretty well known for it's difficult to pass and very tight, and you need a lot of cooperation, especially when you're kind of moving through the field, and even through the pit stop sequences, it can be pretty tight out there. So.
Well, a great run and a great looking car. I'm glad the Race First livery is on your car here tonight. Great to see that in Victory Lane. Who do you want to thank here tonight?
Obviously, big thank you to Team Raceverse, Sunset Arctic Games, Byaku Blade on Steam, and yeah, thanks to you guys for putting on a great broadcast, and hopefully we can keep this going. Let's go for the hat trick, I suppose.
There you go. Looking to be the first driver to win 3 races in a row. It is Pocono next week, I believe. So how do you think you're going to fare there?
It should be a little bit more up in the air, I would say. A little less obvious of who the contenders will be, but Pocono normally has some decent attrition whenever high downforce gets thrown around. So it should be a fun one to watch, and we'll just try our best, and hopefully the chips kind of fall our way.
There you go. You'll be bringing the hot hand on the Ontario down to Pocono. So best of luck to you next week, but congratulations on a great performance here tonight.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All righty. So those were your podium finishers here tonight from Mid-Ohio. And I mentioned Michael Deturck had messaged me on Discord, actually. He said, had an SSD failure over the weekend and had to rebuild and reinstall absolutely everything. And says that he mismanaged his fuel because an app did not get reinstalled correctly. And then he said, it's nice to wreck myself instead of getting wrecked by somebody else for a change, which I Yeah. Yeah, so great sarcasm there. Not only is he a good driver, but he's got quite the dry writ as well. So that was Michael Deturck, who, golly, I tell you, if he didn't have bad luck at late, he didn't have any luck at all. He had the win at Brands Hatch Indy, and let me go and look to see what his best finish outside of that is this season. I think it's
I can tell you
15th. It's tonight's finish of 13th is his other best finish on the night, or on the season rather.
I can tell you for sure it's not going to be very good. As you said, incredibly bad luck for somebody who had a very, very good chance of winning our championship in Season 1. Basically, it seems, has seen the championship hopes be thrown out the window here in Season 2.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. 4 more races after tonight. It is Pocono next week, and then I believe an off week before we close out the season with Gateway, Long Beach, and Indianapolis. So that is what is ahead here on Turn 200. But again, Pocono next week should be a blast here. It was last season. Of course, I'm just excited to be able to do a Pocono race because you got it all to yourself last time out.
Yeah, Pocono, I'm really disappointed that you missed that race last season because it was, I mean, we had a lot of what I would call best races of the season because Michigan was quite something as well. But Pocono was a fantastic race, and I'm expecting just as good, if not better, this time around. We have some pretty stiff competition here, even stiffer than we had in Season 1. So it should be a great showing. I expect and would encourage everybody that was here tonight to bring some friends along because it should be a good one to watch.
Any other closing thoughts here before we close up shop on the night?
I mean, this honestly wasn't as hectic as I thought it would be. When we were watching practice,
no,
we were expecting something fierce, and it wasn't quite as bad as we thought it was going to be. So just great racing from everybody, in particular Sanders and Rondoletto. But we saw a few good battles all the way through. So thanks to everybody for coming out that watched here tonight, and thanks to some of our drivers who showed up on a night that we knew was going to be pretty tricky. So a shout out to everybody that came out because it was a pretty tall task.
Thank you to Martin Rondoletto for hanging out with us tonight, as well as Goyo Dorso, and of course Raceverse. As always, go subscribe to Raceverse. They're about to hit 1,000. You want to be a part of that party once they get that rolling. But thanks to everybody else. If you didn't comment or subscribe here tonight, be sure to do that. We want to give you shout outs every week as well. But thanks again. Same time, same place next week. Or same place as in Turn 200 here on YouTube and Twitch. But it is going to be at Legacy Pocono next Wednesday night. So another great race for you here. Thank you to Daredevil Brewing Company, the title sponsor of the RIL Daredevil series, for their continued support, as well as Jacksonville Speedway for sponsoring the 0-0 Challenge. Their season ends this Saturday night. You can catch that live on Dirt Vision at 6 o'clock Central Time for 410 sprints and midgets at the Badass Bull Ring in Jacksonville Speedway in Jacksonville, Illinois. That is going to be all that we've got here tonight on Turn 200. So for everybody at Turn 200 and the RAL, for the greatest stream producer of all time, Mr. Matt Williamson, I have been Tommy Cook. Until we meet again on Turn 200, we say so long from virtual Mid-Ohio sports car course, where Gavin Sanders pulls off the two-peat in spectacular fashion.